Cheesy one-liners, flashy comebacks, a razor-sharp, straight-to-the-point plotline. Is this a 90s action flick, or just very reminiscent? What's up, guys? Your boy Free C here, and welcome to my review of The Killer's Game. This is a film that I was anticipating way more than Speak No Evil. In fact, if it wasn't for the Friday the 13th we just had, I would have gladly gone for this one first instead. This is a film that, for all intents and purposes, that from the moment the trailers has dropped, the moment the trailers has laid upon these eyes, oh yeah. So in the film you have Joe Flood, an assassin who gets diagnosed with this terminal illness, which forces him to put a hit on himself. To put a contract out on himself. Only to learn later on that he was misdiagnosed. The problem is, nobody backs down. Which turns this into a heart-pounding, edge-of-your-seat survival action galore. Man, is it ever. This thing seemed to have my name on it from the get-go. It seemed like it was calling me, just begging me to watch this. This is a film after my own heart. I can tell you that right now. I knew it from the moment I started seeing the advertisements for this thing. But just how awesome was this? Was this exactly what I needed? Or did this sink harder than the Titanic on a good day? Starting off with the positives, Batista was great. He plays our main lead of the film, and I thought he was excellent. He basically plays this stone-cold assassin killer, but he's got a code to where he only kills bad guys and criminals, no innocents. He was an assassin, but he was honorable. And that, to me, made me follow the character so much easier. And I thought he played it off pretty well. And when he goes into this survival mode, he leaves no stones unturned. There is nothing that this guy holds back at all. And he also brings a certain charm about him. You know, Dave Batista is one of those actors that he always brings a certain charm to his characters. At Knock at the Cabin, The Man with the Iron Fist, which is actually the first movie I've ever seen him in. I think it was the first movie he's ever done. But he just brings a certain charm about him that it's just hard not to like. And the way the story plays out with this guy, you basically have this guy that gets diagnosed with this deadly disease, only to find out later that it was a misdiagnosis, but this was after the guy puts a hit out on himself, and it's kind of hard to turn that off. You know, comes to find out that he needs to be razor sharp and just on his toes the whole entire time, because he finds out he's going to live after all, but he's got all these people trying to come after him. It's as razor sharp of a concept as you can get. This is a film that has such a straightforward story that it's pretty simple. It's just as simple can be. And because this guy has all these people coming after him after this mistake was made, it just basically turns into this non-stop action-driven specter. It's as razor sharp of a concept as you could ever get. It wasn't this giant world building. It wasn't trying to be anything else than what it was. A simple concept with a razor edge plotline and story full of action. Sort of like some of the 80s and 90s films, you know, some of the 80s and 90s action films, only without not as much cheesy dialogue as those had. But it sort of reminded me of that. It was just fun all around, and I appreciated a majority of this film. I knew this was going to be a film for me. I knew this was going to be something for me. I even liked the relationship between Dave Batista and Sofia Boutella. Sofia Boutella, who I just mentioned, I just talked about in my Rebel Moon reviews. I thought she was pretty good in this as well. Sofia Boutella has become somewhat of a popular figure. I thought she was great ever since I first saw her in Kingsley, The Secret Service, which was, I believe, her first acting role. She hadn't disappointed me yet, and in The Killer's Game, I thought she did a really good job. And I thought the relationship between the two was done pretty good. I'm not much into that romance stuff, but if it's done right, enough for you to actually care for the characters, that's a different story, and I thought it was done right here. It wasn't trying to be sappy, it wasn't trying to be cheesy, it was just trying to be what it was. Just these two that fell for each other, and because everything that went on later that follows with all the chaos and stuff, it really makes you feel for the characters. Which was a definite major surprise for me. Like I said, I'm not much into that romance stuff, But if it's a film like this, an action film like this, and the romance is done right, then hell yeah, I'll enjoy the hell out of it. But what really wasn't a surprise was the action. It was spot on. Again, from the moment I seen the trailers and ads for this, I knew it was going to be something for me. I knew this was going to be one portion of the film that I would celebrate and praise all the way through. It was exactly what I expected from the moment I saw the very first trailer, the very first frame of that. Might be over an exaggeration, but still. It was non-stop heart-pounding action all the way through. Yeah, with the exception of some of the story plot details. Of course, you always have to have a breather every now and then for those, which I thought those were done well too. It was very reminiscent of 90s action. This whole entire film, this is just so reminiscent of films like those back in those days. It just felt very similar to those, with the one-liners and the somewhat cheesy comeback lines that those old 80s and 90s action films were known for. You have a very simple story, which a lot of those 90s action films were known for, with great action, plenty of action, and somewhat tongue-in-cheek moments, which this also had, not to the point of Commando or anything like that, but still, it had some tongue-in-cheek moments, but it worked. It worked for me. It wasn't like it was overstuffed. Again, I throw Commando in there as an example, but still, very reminiscent, and it's something that I feel like Lionsgate has had a definite act for, especially with films like this. Every time they make an action movie, a very cheesy, yet somewhat reminiscent film of a 90s action flick, that's actually what it is. It's like the Lionsgate effect. I know that might not be that clever, but still, it's like the Lionsgate effect. Every time they make a movie like this, every time Lionsgate puts out a movie like this, it's very reminiscent of a 90s action film, which I deeply appreciate. That's why I go for Lionsgate action films like this. It's something I love. Yes, I understand it's not for everybody, but it definitely was for me. It definitely is for me. Pom Klementieff, if I'm not pronouncing that name right, I apologize. I thought she did a really good job as our main villain. I thought her character was executed very well. She's definitely making a name for herself. She was also in the MCU as Mantis, which makes sense because her and Batista has acted together before in those. Why not throw them together in this as well? And she was also in the last Mission Impossible movie as the right-hand woman of the main villain of that film. Here, she plays the one that Batista goes to put a hit out on him when he thought he was dying. They have a very ugly past, so of course it wasn't a problem for her not to back down after Batista begged her to not go through with all of this. I thought she pulled it off pretty well. She was very sadistic, very, what you expect out of a character like this. And I'm happy to say, even the comedy was handled nicely in this, especially when Terry Crews shows up. Every time that guy would open his mouth, I'd get a laugh. I thought he was the heartbeat, the heart of the comedic tone of this film. The main thing that was keeping the comedic tone alive for the film. And I thought he did a really excellent job in the type of character he played. He was, of course, one of the assassins that was after Batista's character. And like I said, every time he would open his mouth, every time he would say one of his cheesy liner, like 80s, 90s one-liners, it would get a chuckle out of me. And again, every time he'd open his mouth, it would guarantee a laugh. Dude was awesome. You just pure awesome. The only thing that kind of weighs this film down for me just a little bit, which I dive into my mix, and it's very, very small, it's very minute, but there's this fight scene between Batista's character and the Spanish dancer that from the moment that scene happens in the third act, it was a little, compared to the rest of the film, compared to the rest of the film's tone and the action sequences, this particular scene was okay, but it's not like it really weighed the film down for me to an extent, because the rest of the film's tone with its action sequences was so awesome, it overshadowed it. But it's something I can't ignore. When the scene was actually going on between him and this dancer, it was a little weird. It stuck out like a sore thumb, so it's something that I cannot ignore. But because the rest of the film was the way it was, and the other action sequences was so kick-ass and awesome, it did overshadow it. So, again, not a big deal. Not something that really ticked me off or anything. but it is something that sticks out like a sore thumb. I call it the black sheep of the action sequences for this film, but very, very small one. It's not enough for it to be a killjoy for the entire film. It's not enough for it to actually ruin the rest of the film for me, so we're good there. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is exactly the type of film for me. This is exactly the type of film I always celebrate. I hate that it's making bupkis at the box office. But you know what?
I don't give a fuck.
It was the most fun I've had at the movies in a while. Yes, I watch a lot of movies in theaters, and yes, I enjoy a majority of them, but a movie like this, I enjoy even more. It was dumb fun action, but fun nonetheless. There's no denying that this was an absolute blast, and you should own this movie. Guys, before I wrap this up, if there's ever an action movie you need to go check out The Killer's Game. That was the most fun I've had at the movie theater in a long while, and I know I say that a lot about a lot of the movies I review, but for a movie like The Killer's Game, it was non-stop fun, it was non-stop action, it was everything that I expected. If there's ever an action movie that you need to go check out The Killer's Game. It is worth it. Yes, I know film's subjective, it may not be for everyone, but you never know until you try it. Go check it out, thank me later, or not. You never know. Just check it out in theaters as soon as you can. It's worth it. So, The Killer's Game, what was your thoughts on it? Have you seen it yet? Are you a fan? Are you somebody who was looking forward to this? Or like me, are you somebody that got a definite kick out of this and enjoyed every second of it? Or are you somebody that didn't quite care for this? Are you somebody that thought that this was a little bit too on the nose? Maybe this was a little bit too silly for you, a little bit too on the nose, too tongue-in-cheek for you? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking in here and watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing, especially if you like what you see. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.